Welcome to the K-State Insiders, your Kansas State sports show. Now, let's head into the studio.
Welcome to the Insiders. I am Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowercat publisher. The usual crew and one guest, Big B Brien Hanley. He played on the 97 and 98 teams. He was Michael Bishop's left guard, but will he always be that? He is to me. Cole Carmody, Ryan Gilbert, and the one and only Ian Campbell joins us. He was part of one of our panels last week, or was that last week? Yeah. He's in tonight to talk a little K-State football. Ian, appreciate it very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And we're trying to figure out what this little box is in the corner.
It's the comments. It's the comments.
Oh, that's a new thing. Let me see if I can turn that off. Anyhow, show comments on stage. Boom! Took it off.
There you go.
What use was that? That thing was so small. So Gilbert understands that. Ian, they won Kansas State 34-20. It was much better, but a lot of room for improvement. We were just discussing. Give me your overall thoughts on that K-State game.
Well, yeah, thanks for leading off with me, with all these guys that have all the pro talk, but winning solves a lot of things, right? We were all happy to see the win. The silver lining is I think they can play better than they did on Saturday. Like, there's still room in the tank and there is talent. This is not like a talentless group that ran into some issues. It's even more apparent and probably even more frustrating now that everybody realizes how much we've been underplaying the first few games. I know we can't do anything about it now, but it was good to get a win. Made Saturday a little better, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure did. Big B, little signs of life from that offensive line. There's still a lot of work to do. Of course, having Dylan Edwards back there helps a little bit. He makes people miss, but I thought they did play better, and they seem to be a little bit more physical than they have been.
Absolutely. They were more physical. Basically they just played with a little more passion. They made some changes at certain spots which I thought was absolutely necessary, but they just played better. Now, again, I know people will say, well, UCF, they weren't predicted to be any good, but my thing goes back to, did we think Army's any good? No. Do we think North Dakota's good? No. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think UCF's better than both of them. Mm-hmm. So, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I think that the just playing with passion and some enthusiasm and some physicality as far as the offensive line, that went a long way. And it seemed like the coaches were willing to say, you know what, we're going to give people a chance, but if you're not getting it done, we're going to move on. And they did. And they need to. And they need to keep it that way. Because there's no sense in playing guys that just aren't getting the job done. That doesn't help. But you're right, Fitz, having Dylan Edwards and even Avery running the football. I shouldn't say and Avery, but having him running the football just opens up so much more.
Cole, I just recorded my daily delivery for tomorrow on the Blake Barnett series of plays they ran. I loved it. And let's be really honest here. Outside of Jace Brown running the Wildcat, they haven't been very creative at all.
No.
And the more of that kind of stuff you can put on film, the more prep work opposing defenses have to do. But Blake Barnett's an effective runner. Didn't break anything long, but 4.5 yards a carry. That'll get it done.
I think it set a tone. I mean, that's really more, I think what that was, that was the purpose of that. I don't think the purpose of putting your backup quarterback into the game to run through somebody was to try and get 5 or 6 yards. I mean, is that part of it? Sure. But I think it's like, okay, this kid is going to come into the game. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. It's his first college snaps. He plays hard in practice. He's busted his butt for 2 years, and we think he's going to be a talented football player. Guys, in today's day and age of college football, if you have a kid like that, you got to get him on the field, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where, you have to get him onto the field. And I thought when they brought in Blake Barnett, it was genius because Chris Kleiman said at his press conference, they had been practicing this during the bye week because they didn't know if they were going to have Dylan Edwards or not. Well, guess what? They had Dylan, and they still ran it. How many times have we said, don't hold anything back? Big B, we talked about this on the post-game show. Go do everything you can do to win a football game. That could have easily been something where they said, we have Dylan, we don't need to run it. But Chris Kleiman said, no, we are running this. That's not something we've seen from Chris Kleiman in the past. I thought that was really interesting to come out of the press conference on Monday, but I loved it. And the question is, will we see more of that? Guys, I don't think, to be completely honest with you, I don't think we'll see that formation on Saturday. But I think we could see a different variation of Blake Barnett in the game, maybe a different variation off of that formation. I don't think we'll see the same plays that we saw on Saturday with him in the game, but it doesn't matter because when he came into the game on Saturday, he brought another element and it brought some life to not just the guys on the field, but the guys on the sideline. Because when you see a guy make a play who hasn't made a play yet, it fires up the entire team.
Cole, thanks for walking me right into my question for Gills. Gills, you were there at the press conference with me, and we asked him about that formation. He was kind of cryptic, Coach Kleiman, in his answers. Do you think they're going to run it again? Do you think they'll use it again, or was that just a one-off? I hope they use it again, but I know every team's going to have to prepare for it now. I agree with Cole, though. You can build things off of it. You don't have to run the same things you ran, but that formation can go a lot of different ways.
Not just the formation, but getting Blake Barnett on the field, period. My coach speak radar was going off a little bit when Kleiman was talking about Barnett. We'll see. Was he being true and genuine that he doesn't know what they'll do moving forward with that formation with Barnett? We'll see in Waco on Saturday, but I don't want to say you'd be foolish not to, but think of if you're Baylor's defense, and I mean this with all due respect to Isaac Cook, and Sterling Lockett. Well, it's KOCH.
Well, that's it for the show tonight. Thanks, everyone.
If you don't have Jace Brown and Jaran Bradley, okay. If you don't have some of your star wideouts, are you going to be threatened by Bryce Nornberg lining up out there compared to if you see Blake Barnett, even if you're going to run halfback draw right up the middle, the threat of somebody that you've seen do some, I wouldn't call them interesting things, but you've seen a quarterback go in there and just run the ball. So if you're Baylor's defense, you put a lot more pressure on that group by just putting Blake Barnett on the field, even if you don't have really hardly any intention of I'm sorry for what I said, guys. KOCH. I'm sorry.
My group chat's already blowing me up just because you said that.
I'm proud of you, Gills. Way to work it in there.
Sorry.
Way to work it in there. And also, Ryan Gilbert told me to remind everyone if you want to get a question in, and we need your questions, a shortcut is the super chat option. You can see the little $sign down there. Click it and give us 2 cents, and we'll bump your question to the top. More than 2 cents would be nice. And also make sure you're subscribing to GoPowercat. Subscribing to this YouTube channel helps us out. Ian, as a former defensive player, what little nuances when a team does those kind of things, does it really add to your preparation and everything you got to have up in your noggin during the course of a game?
Yeah. If you know that they can hurt you or gash you with a special package, you do have to prep for it. You're not going to and I should say it depends on how seasoned and good your defense is, right? If you're, we were fairly terrible my senior year, so we would spend a whole day prepping for packages because we were not ready for baseline packages. So yes, the worse you are, the more of a headache it is, right? Because you want to think as little as possible. So they're definitely going to, it's on film and it's out there. There's got to be some prep for it. And I would at least keep every team honest, even if it's just a couple plays off that formation with Barnett, just to say, did you prep for it? And if you didn't, we're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
So that time adds up.
I mentioned this in my daily delivery, stealing for myself. In Snyder 1.0, there was a game where he ran a 2-point conversion. They didn't need the 2 points. It served no purpose. And the other team was kind of pissed because K-State was ahead. And I asked him later, why'd you do that? And he goes, they're all going to have to prepare for it now. They're going to have to spend a little bit of time in practice on this. And there's other things I do that they got to waste time on that. Will we ever use it again? Probably not. But if they don't prepare, we'll know it as soon as we line up. Big B, that was a hopeful performance for Kansas State. It looked more like Kansas State football, but the reality is it was a 14-point win at home in front of a sold-out crowd and against a team that was picked for near the bottom of the conference. Yeah, I think UCF's better than we expected, but still, it's not like they blew anyone's doors off.
No, they didn't. But they won. You know, and sometimes it can just be a struggle to win a football game when you're struggling. So I wouldn't get so caught up in the, and I'm not saying you particular, I'm just saying in general, I don't think people should just get caught up in the, well, we should have blown them out, which I agree. They should have won the game by more than 14 points. They had an opportunity, but, you know, the big play kind of bit them a little bit. They got to be able to control that, especially this week. Baylor can do that to you quickly and often, but they won. And that's all we were asking for. We were asking for, can we give effort? Because they acted like they didn't want to play football. Can you play physical? And can you just go win a game? And they did all three of those. Now, everything else, we can work on the rest of it. We can work on being more, having some more imagination in the play calling. We can work on technique. We can work all that stuff. But let's start with the basics, man. Go out there and play football. Play fast, play fun, play physical, and act like you give a damn. And they did those things, and then they won a football game. Now we can go forward with the rest of it, because at some point, you just got to win. And I think sometimes when you haven't won and you're supposed to, that can weigh on your mind more than anything, and it just keeps you second-guessing yourself constantly. So I'm just glad that they won. It was kind of a comfortable win. I know it got a little tight there, but it was a comfortable win. Now let's go, because, again, they're going to have to play Baylor. Baylor, there's opportunities to win the game. I know Baylor's good. There are opportunities to win this football game. I've seen them. I've seen them a bunch. I've seen them in person. K-State can win this game. They really can.
Yeah, Cole, it was interesting to me that Kansas State's defense was so good for about 35 minutes. Yeah. They gave up the one explosive play in the first half, the 82-yard touchdown. But in total, including that, they'd only given up like 134 yards, something like that. And then all hell broke loose. The defense just fell apart. They gave up more than 200 yards after that, almost negative rushing prior to that, and they gave up 160 plus in the final 25 minutes. This was the same thing we've seen from K-State in the fact that something went bad for them, and Coach Kleiman talked about it, that the explosive play knocked them off their center a little bit, and they almost lost their energy because of it. Dude, they got to solve that. I don't know why this team does that.
I don't really understand Kleiman bringing up they got the deep pass, and I was worried that it was going to affect us the rest of the game. I didn't really understand that comment on Monday, because you said 35 minutes. I'll even go farther than that, Fitz. They got a turnover with 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter when they ripped the ball off after stuffing the guy on 4th and 1. They were not content with just holding him there. They wanted to get a turnover. That was when they ripped the ball out. That was with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. And so they were playing lights out. Were they giving up some yards? Yes. But again, when you're up by, at that point, I think they were up by, it was 24-7 at that point. You're just not trying to get beat over the top with passes through the air. And so they had kind of let UCF drive down the field. So I think Coach Kleiman with that, I don't know if he was misspeaking or what. I honestly, going back and looking at it, guys, I really felt like, Fitz, you and I joked in the press box after Dylan Edwards scored that touchdown after UCF had kicked a field goal that, now they're going to have to go right back out there on defense. But I don't even know if that was much of a joke, because they literally were out there for a long drive. They score on one play, and then they have to go right back out there again. And it's 95 degrees outside. Again, not making excuses, just the reality. Obviously, you'll take the touchdown in case they did. It was a much different situation in the Army game. But I think there might have been a little bit to that. And there's going to be a natural letdown. And I think you guys who played can kind of back me up on that. When you're up by a bunch of points, it's really hard to maintain that focus, both offensively and defensively. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just felt like they kind of just lost focus just for a little bit and kind of got complacent more than anything else. that can't happen, because if you're going against good teams, like you said, Brian, it's very easy for teams who can score quickly to get right back in the game. It felt like they were just kind of,
I mean,
okay, we got this one. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I get what you're saying, but they weren't up by a bunch of points. Like 17 points is not a bunch of points. That's the difference. Like, I mean, if they were up by 35, that's a conversation we could have. But 17 points is absolutely not that's not a lot, especially in today's day and age of college football. So I get the premise, but if that's what they were thinking, that we were up by 17 points, let's let our foot up off the gas. That's a totally different problem, man, because that's not enough. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, if we get a stop or we cause a turnover and we've been out there for, 6, 7, 8 minutes, however long it's been, eating up clock, call it 10 or 11 out of a quarter, right? And we score, we turn right back around and we're not off the field for 30 seconds. I'm not going to go out there and be like, well, I guess we get a better take a breather on this. Like, no, it's time to stiffen up even more. Like, it's all the more reason to work even harder to get the hell off the field because you are tired. Right. Let's get this first 3 and out. Like, we got to go. Somebody's got to make a splash play. So this, like, oh, we could sit back and chill. Like, I may not have got to be a part of routing enough teams. So there wasn't any chilling until you got below the second string on the depth chart because those guys are still trying to put tape out there.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, but if the cushion was a little bigger, I could see it fall off. But you still gotta stiffen up in that situation. You're tired. Okay, go harder, get out. You got to get the knockout, right? Like, I can't go 15 rounds. Well, you better knock them out in 10.
There you go.
Yep, indeed. Gills, can I trust you? After the game, the guys were, well, let's put it this way. They got it to celebrate a win. I don't know that they really celebrated much after North Dakota. I mean, come on, for Pete's sakes. But that just has to help their psychology. And I thought the players were notably more happy and upbeat at the Monday press conference.
1,000%. And we got a really good group on Monday that we got to speak with. Those are up on YouTube right now. You can go watch. Including Luis Rodriguez and Sterling Lockett, I believe.
He was really good.
First time we've talked to both of those guys all year. So, but yeah, and I thought Toby said it best that they can't let success. So, man, what was his shoot?
Are you okay
it out.
today?
And I forgot what it was.
What I tell you what, you turn off your camera, go take a shot of whiskey, and then come back.
I would love to do that. You can't be seduced by success.
Yes.
There we go. No whiskey needed. I thought that was great from Toby. This is great, man. It was Chris Kleiman's birthday, right? You also, I'm sure you guys saw the post-game locker room on social media. Like, they were going crazy and celebrating, and now you can't let that be the peak of your season. And seems like they're mature enough to kind of carry the mentality that they had during the bye week moving forward, right? If you have the mentality that you had after Iowa State or before Army, you're going to lose games. Points, that's simple. Mm-hmm. So if they stay locked in, Big B, like you said, Kansas State can win this game. Even if Baylor does have its A+ game, Kansas State was in fact favored to win the Big 12 here before the season. So it's not like the season is completely those first 4 games were frustrating, but they were still picked that high for a reason.
Ian, you were a press conference regular. You were one of the guys that was a leader on those teams that you played on, and you had to go in the room and talk about a lot of crappy performances, whether it was after the game or the Tuesday following at the press conference. And I imagine a game like what happened in Nebraska one season was PTSD. So what's it like to be on the field and someone blows coverage and boom, there's an explosive play? It's just got to be completely deflating because you undid everything you'd been doing.
Yeah, that's tough to put it all into one. There's a lot of it is super deflating. It's the disappointment of, oh, that's a coverage blown. If it's just the start, right? Like, okay, we've got to have short memory. You got to be a goldfish. Next play, let's try to get it back. But it does, when you're talking about some of the losses we really suffered, like, your Nebraskas and OU and Tech, who just beat the hell out of us. I don't know what the rating is on this, but it was not good.
Well, we don't have one now because of Gilbert.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's like, I think it was like 185 to 24 if you want to put the points out there on those 3 games, and it was miserable in every sense. I mean, you felt like you shouldn't be wearing the purple. You're embarrassed. You feel shame for your own family having to be there to watch that. And I took it all very personal because you put so much time and effort into this, right? Like you're literally trading hours of your life to have this tiny moment to go out and show what you can do. And, I owned my name and I owned what I did at my career at K-State, both as an individual and as on a team. And I would love to say that I'm proud of all those teams I had out there, but I know I'm not, and I know they aren't either. Now, does that mean that we weren't a part of some things that built there on after? Yeah, we were. Colin was a freshman when I was a senior. So we feel some kind of mild ownership that those guys continued on. Yes, that's our silver lining. But yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And it makes you want to take things to the cat head when guys are continuously not doing their job. Because football is the one world, particularly on the field, where you can't lie about anything you've done because of the film, right? Everything, the eye in the sky never lies. We can see everything. It includes reps and practice, even one-on-ones, two-board, all of it, right? So you can't tell me you did your job if I know for a fact that you didn't. I just watched. We just watched the rerun too. Let's watch it 5-6 more times till it sinks in that you didn't do your job.
Was Take It to the Cat Head a Ron Prince thing or a locker room thing?
No, that was long before that.
That was
what's amazing? I've covered Kansas State football since Big B played, and I had never heard that sentence in my life.
Really?
No.
Oh, yeah. That was a rite of passage going take it to the cat head. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was. I mean, things got solved at the cat head. Let's just say that. I'll keep it at that. Things got solved at the cat head.
Yeah. And it wasn't always on the field issues.
Nope.
You had beef, you go squash. Yeah, sort things out. It was, a rite of passage in a sense for some guys. It was usually fairly obvious if it was a field issue, who was in the right or the wrong. But, even the guy who was getting dogged out and was in the wrong was still sticking up for himself.
Right.
So usually guys stepped away and shook hands. Brooks mentioned it, and I wouldn't have brought it up, but I think, the statutes of what you could talk about in the locker room have probably faded away enough. And it was just a story about me. So no other names were mentioned. So it's fine. But yeah, sometimes it's not the same HR as everybody else, right? You can't have those meetings at every other company. It was a different kind of meeting back then. You had to have some self-governance. If you were not getting along and doing what the coaches and the leaders were asking you to do, okay. Especially if we can't replace you, then we got to have an attitude adjustment.
I love it. It's ironic that Brooks Rossman brought it up. As a kicker ever been taken to the cat head?
Brooks is pretty feisty. So he still is pretty feisty. I don't remember. I know we had one punter kicker, Jesse Martinez, that I could tell you a lot of guys didn't want to see the business in anything Jesse had to offer, because most guys can't double as a wide receiver and a punter. He was a big man.
I'm just going to go out and say that Martine and Jamie Ream never went to the cat head. They were never invited. There was no need to take those guys. First of all, they were really good, so we didn't want to beat them up. But yeah, Martine and Jamie Ream weren't at the cat head, man.
That's funny. No, they weren't, but they were so good, right? You would have protected them anyway.
Exactly.
No, this guy's a lot of points. If I'll sub in. I'll be the warrior of choice here. Trial by combat.
Yep. Grammatic is the first guy that I ever saw that blew out a knee, rehabbed, and it came back like better. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of a sudden he's kicking 60-plusers, and I'm like, what happened here? You just blew out your knee. Did they put some bionics in there? Cole, what would happen if you tried to have that tradition in modern football in the NIL era? I think people would probably use NIL money to pay someone like you go fight for me.
It's interesting you say that, because I think you'd be surprised. I think that there still is a lot of old school traditions Maybe not at K-State. Maybe that tradition's not there. But I still think there is a lot of old-fashioned, hey, we're going to solve this how we've solved it for the last 15 years. We're going to do it this way. This is how it's done, and we're going to do it. And maybe not necessarily in something like that. But, you know, I watched, bringing this full circle, I watched the little cinematic video that K-State put out tonight about the recap of the game. And Steve Stannard and Buddy Wyatt, old school coaches. Like, those guys coached in the 90s, okay? I know I'm saying that's old school, but you know what? That is a different era of football than it is today. So technically it's old school. Sorry, Big B.
And you, Cole.
It's true. Those guys could coach back then because they did. And they said, you know what? You're going to celebrate. You're going to pick up your teammate. You're going to play with enthusiasm. You shouldn't have to say that, but you know what? That is the same message that has been relayed for years upon years upon years, right? You're going to go out there, you're going to play fast, you're going to play physical, you're going to play with enthusiasm. It doesn't matter what level of football you are. It doesn't matter when you played. Every single person heard that speech before a game. I still think that there is some old school traditions within this modern version of college football. And if there isn't, that's when you see problems. The reason why K-State had so many problems this year is because they weren't playing how fans and how alumni have seen them play for decades. But on Saturday, we saw a little glimpse of that. We saw them fly around. We saw them play physical. We saw them rally to the ball. And so while there may not be the same traditions, I still think there's a lot of that same style that you need to have in order to be successful. Because if you don't have it, that's how you end up 1-3.
Gills, you know me. I've been so frustrated with special teams and the kind of loss of a tradition and loss of the importance of it to the program. I think that's still a mistake. But Luis Rodriguez gave me hope today. That kid was really solid. And when Chris Kleiman mentioned he's kind of got ice in his veins, he's just very level, steady out there. And I asked him about it, and he said his dad told him to think of words that describe how he wants to perform. And that keeps that in your head instead of anything else. That I was really impressed with that young man. And they didn't even offer him until mid-July because they realized they were having some injuries at kicker, and he stepped right in, and it's one of the most solid, reliable portions of this team.
100%. Luis Rodriguez and Simon McLennan both deserve big shout outs. And I know the special teams has been overall subpar on the air. That's the truth. But those two guys putting the football on their feet have done a great job doing what they're asked to do. And you mentioned Luis, like that is maybe if Brooks was on here, he'd disagree, but there's maybe hundreds of thousands of people that can kick a ball through an upright when there's nobody watching. It's all about the pressure. When there's 50,000 fans staring at you and sometimes screaming at you, that's when you make or break your case as being a clutch kicker. And Luis Rodriguez hasn't been to a wideout at Penn State yet, but he's played in front of some, he played overseas on a pretty crappy field in Dublin, which I don't know if you guys, Big B, you obviously saw the game in Ireland for the NFL. Why? I mean, we were texting about this, Cole.
Yeah.
I understand that it was the capacity difference, but that field for the Steelers-Vikings game was miles better than what Kansas State and Iowa State played on. But back to Luis Rodriguez, man, you hear him talk, and he has that confidence that he carries with himself on the field, in the locker room, in the press conference area. No matter where he's at, he's confident, and that directly translates to him hitting field goals.
I agree. For all we kind of want to ignore the Ron Prince years, it really is an amazing part of history. And the fact that he brought James Franklin and Raheem Morris as his coordinators, and he recruited Colin Klein. So the impact he's had on football, and let alone K-State football, is there. But one of the things he did right was he did respect that tradition of special teams. He did understand it gave Kansas State an advantage in an area that maybe other teams might have more talent offensively, defensively, but we can use special teams as leverage. Didn't always work, but certainly helped against the Longhorns. Man, I do believe that he understood what those returns and those big plays and special teams meant to the team.
Yeah, I don't really, and I'm absolutely not coming down on the group at all because I've been on the other side of it. I don't understand where that's gone. Our special teams were genuinely special, right?
Yep.
I expected something to happen almost every week because you saw it happen in practice and you worked it, whether it was a block or a return, whatever, right? I expected it to happen. I mean, we've got this is one of the only stats I can pull out. We've got the most non-offensive touchdowns in the country since 1997 or 98. Virginia Tech was close with us for a while, but and now you're just not seeing quite as much of it. Now it's got to be a return. It's nice to just block it and run it in for a touchdown. I mean, Marcus Perry picked one up on Bill's last game. When we played, was that Mizzou? Yeah. I mean, we just got used to guys. You only had those little moments to show off that talent, right? Like some guys might only get 15 special team snaps. I mean, they were selling out. And a lot of those guys were also working for scholarships or trying to get a little shine for a little bit more. And that's your opportunity. So get back there and block the kick, scoop and score, right?
Yep.
But we worked on that all the time. And, in those short practices that were never over the length of time that we were allotted to go, for practices, whatever the Big 12 said, we never went over that. There was plenty of time for special team work during the volunteer period.
We have a celebrity in the comments here. A kicker commenting on a kicker is solid gold. Brooks, thank you. He is. Look, as a football player, he's a stud, but the way he handled it, I mean, he just walks in that room today. Yeah, I'm going to talk to these media people, which a lot of guys will get nervous with that the first time in, and then they'll find out we're a bunch of idiots anyhow. So no reason to be too upset, but he just handled it like a champ. It was impressive. Let's turn our attention to Baylor because I don't understand Baylor. I watch them, Big B, and you've seen them more than me even. They look really good, and then they look really bad. But I know this. Sawyer Robertson can throw the ball all over the field. K-State better be buttoned up on the back end of that defense, or it's going to be a miserable day in Waco.
Well, not just that. I mean, that's obviously the most pressing threat, but they can also run it.
Yep.
And that's the thing. They ran it. Now, Oklahoma State doesn't have a pulse on defense, like literally no pulse. They're as bad as Kansas. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But
I knew I liked you, D.
They ran it for 217 yards. So they run the football as well. Kansas got to be able to start, or not Kansas. Kansas State's got to be able to stop the run. Kansas does too. I mean, they're giving up 600 yards anytime they play somebody with a pulse. But again, conversation for a different day. But yeah, to get back to it, yeah, Baylor is going to be challenging. You got to stop them on the back end, but I think you got to stop the run first. Now, Sawyer Robertson is very good, but when you allow them to do both, they become unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is that you've got to take away something. And I'm not even saying that, look, they're not going to throw the football for 350 yards. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but you can't let them throw it for 350 and then run for 175. You do that, you're getting blown out. I'm going to tell you that right now. You got to be able to take away something. So if you're going to give up 350 through the air, it's not the most ideal thing, but it can happen. Well, then limit them to 50 rushing. And if you do that, then you can win the football game. But you can't let them go crazy doing both, because if you do, you're asking to get blown out.
Cole, thoughts on this challenge ahead for Kansas State?
So I'm going to use Big B's analogy. And just because I said that the 90s were old school, I'm going to use a 90s reference.
Here we go.
Okay. So when you played the Bulls, right, you had to contain Scottie Pippen. You knew Michael Jordan was going to get his. Michael Jordan could score 40 points, and you could win the basketball game. But if Scottie Pippen scored 30, you weren't going to win. No way if you were going to win if Jordan had 40 and Pippen had 30. But if you held Scottie Pippen to 15 points, you might be able to win the game. It doesn't matter what Mike ended up with. So you use that comparison with Sawyer Robertson. He's going to be able to get his yards. He leads the country in passing yards and passing touchdowns. He is going to get yards. He's going to throw the ball. And I was texting Brian on Saturday this. I watched that game. I look at their highlights. And I'm like, this is like Cliff Kingsbury, Texas Tech. Like, it reminds me of Patrick Mahomes when he's at Texas Tech, how he would just throw the ball all over the yard and they couldn't stop a soul. And so I look at this Baylor team. They're not very physical. They don't really want to stop the run. I mean, go back and watch that game against Oklahoma State. They have no desire to stop the run. They got guys getting pancaked by offensive linemen who wouldn't start at any other school in the Big 12. In fact, they're all transfers at Oklahoma State up front. So that defensive line is not very good. Jackson Arnold at Auburn ran all over them. I think they have to be able to utilize the quarterback run. Baylor has a very difficult time stopping the quarterback run. That's the Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards being healthy at the same time in this game is huge. And so, somebody, first of all, I have to put this comment up here.
I saw that.
Old enough to have ever seen Pippen? No, I was not.
I was going to say, how the hell do you even know, man?
I was not alive, but I'm just going to throw that out there. I think K-State, this is going to be a high-scoring game, but you got to be able to stop the run, as Brian said, and be able to score because this Sawyer Robertson is really good. He's an NFL quarterback.
Yep. Gills, is that the first time he's ever used a basketball analogy and not baseball?
Yeah. Cole, you're supposed to use baseball, man. He's the one that needs a shot of whiskey right now.
Right.
Ian, give me your thoughts on this K-State group of defensive ends. They were hyped up a lot, in part by me, because the coaches spoke highly of them. We haven't seen that kind of pressure. We haven't seen someone emerge as the guy. And you got to have that. You got to have an offense worried about one dude on that line that is going to disrupt you. If it's Felix or, we've had a long line of them, including yourself. Give me your thoughts on the offensive line and how important, the defensive ends and how important they are in this game, getting pressure on the quarterback.
As a defensive end with a weak offensive line and a bunch of transfer guys, we talked about that a couple weeks ago when I was on with Ryan and some of the other players and how important it is for, that beef to be built up and to learn the system and be under that position coach for a couple years at a time for him to really turn into an animal, right? Nothing is tougher and worse than going up against the right tackle who is just venom at everything that they do. They're mean, they're big, they're athletic, and they finish every play. Not dirty, but borderline, right? Those guys are tough. They're not fun to go against. And when you go against a team that isn't going to have that, then you need to be licking your chops. Because, if you don't have this confidence yet, you've definitely got to be building it over this last game and this game. I just really –
Hey, Gills, I need you to take over. I think dude's about to seize on me.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, as I was saying, the confidence stuff, it's, when you're second guessing and thinking while you're moving, you should just be reacting. There shouldn't be a thought, right? I'm coming off the edge. If the tackle goes down, I still know, boom, what's my read? What's my key? And I'm moving up the line, cut back, bootleg, reverse. That's what I'm looking for. If I see the ball, I get the ball level. I'm going to go right away if I don't have to trail, right? All that quick. You can't be sitting there what's my job? What am I going to do? So, these guys I have showed, and there's enough of this coaching experience to know what kind of talent these guys have. So if they say they're this talented, and same, with Gilbert and Fitz watching and being around football for this long, they know what these guys are capable of. So they just haven't had that breakout game yet. They're just right there because you could be a half a step behind and your hurries might even be okay. But the stat that matters the most when you're playing D end is sacks. And this has got to be a game where you're like, let's go out and get a couple. One guy should go out and get a couple. It should be a 4 or 5 game sack deal. And then that'll create problems. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to shut the guy down, but if the quarterback's
their line's not great, Ian. No, you're right, Ian. Their line's not great. There's opportunities there to get sacks. Now, I mean, again, they do a great job of mixing up the run and the pass. So, I mean, but when they run, they're not running wide. I mean, they're running inside. They're running in between the tackles. So a lot of it RPO game type of stuff, but there's opportunity. There's going to be some opportunities to get to the quarterback. And the thing is, you got to get there and you got to get him on the ground because he's mobile, but you got to hit him and you got to keep hitting him. And that's the difference. I watched them against SMU. SMU hit him and they hit him a lot. and he threw the game-winning touchdown. So I'm just saying, you got to keep hitting him because he's not going to stop, and they're not going to stop throwing the football. So you have to continue to get after him, and that's the key. Ian's 100% right. Just you have that breakout game. Somebody go get a sack. Somebody step up, but it's going to take that this week.
Sack, fumble, right? Really, almost in every game, whether it's the best player on the team, the most important player is almost always the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a new day and age in football. You used to just say, just go, knock him out of the game. So we don't say that anymore, but go give him some problems. Make him think about it.
You know what, though, guys? That's what K-State did against UCF. You talk about knocking the quarterback out of the game. They did. They literally knocked the UCF quarterback out of the game. And then what happened? Well, Ja'Carri Brown threw a touchdown pass. That's fine. But he also threw a really important interception. And they did nothing when he was in at quarterback outside of the defensive mistake. So, yeah, I agree with you guys. And I think about this, this game kind of reminds me of the Colorado game last year, right? Like, I think that Colorado last year and Baylor this year are pretty similar. I think Colorado was better last year than Baylor is this year. But I look at them, and these teams are kind of built the same way. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brien, but like I look at it and they're built around their quarterback. They're built around their receivers, right? Now, obviously, Baylor has a really good tight end that K-State's going to have to deal with. But this is a team that is built around their quarterback. And that's what happened last year against Colorado. And those guys play with some swagger. And as you guys, former players, can attest to, it just always feels like whenever you're going up against somebody that everybody is proclaiming to be, this first round draft pick, oh, he's so good, he's this, he's that, it fires you up. And
of course.
I could see this defense having a performance like they did against Colorado last year, where they want to shut some people up.
Yeah,
well,
it was blaring
Bryson Washington. It's built around their quarterback, but they can run the football too. Bryson Washington is very good. So if K-State just believes that, okay, we'll just get after the quarterback and that's it, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have problems because they can run it. And you have to stop the run. So he can run that football. He's good. He's an NFL running back. He's young, but he's an NFL running back. So you got to stop him first. That's why I say you got to stop him first, because we're not going to stop the quarterback. That's just not going to happen. You can slow him down, but you're not going to stop that. You can stop the run because their offensive line isn't that good. That's where the difference comes in.
Yeah, we've talked a lot, guys, about Sawyer Robertson, and rightfully so. But Kansas State, you can check out our PFF article on GoPowercat. 13 missed tackles against UCF, and that wasn't maybe the exact root cause of every big play that the Knights hit, but you want to get down the quarterback. You want to get down everybody when you get that first contact. And Cole, I'll steal a Jerome Tang quote. You do all that work, but you don't cash in the paycheck, right? Like if you're gonna get in the backfield, you've got to make the most of it. And like you said, guys, like a sack is great, but a forced fumble on a sack is even better. So. And also the defensive line was, if you go look at those PFF grades, and again, those aren't gospel, take it for what it's worth, but the secondary did a lot better than the defensive front against UCF. So not that secondary doesn't need to have its A+ game in Waco, but you've got to win the trenches, Big B. Your piece on GoPowercat will go up on Tuesday about Kansas State's offensive line, but equally as important in that game is the defense.
Absolutely. I think it's – go ahead, Ian.
No, I just agree completely. It might not be the shine, right, is offensive line, defensive line, not saying they never get pub. I know edge rusher is always going to get some love, but I know where the work's done, and I know how much it matters, right? And it's always up front. And I'm not trying to diminish what the skill guys do, right? But it's a different kind of battle of attrition in the trenches. And you just got to want it. It comes. I hate that I like it to minimize what football is. At this level, everybody X's and O's, there's some equivalence, or you wouldn't be where you are, right? You wouldn't have had the successes you've had. So you got to be able to not like let go of the rope at the end of the game. My favorite part of the game was when the guy was tired and he's like, I'm just ready for it to be over. And I'm like, well, we're just getting started. These next 15 snaps are the most important of the game. And that's got to be your attitude. Like, you're ready to roll over, and I'm like, we're just getting going. We aren't even done.
It's just like I've been saying the last couple of weeks, guys just got to win one rep at a time. And they did a good job of this last week. Look, they didn't win every rep, and you're never going to win every rep.
Right.
But they didn't. That what they did do is say, okay, I didn't win this one, but I'm going to do everything humanly possible not to lose the next one. They did that this past week, and they have to do that with every football game moving forward. First of all, they should be doing that with everything. But having said all of that, yeah, they got to do it again this week. Just go win a rep. Don't worry about trying to win this series or a quarter or a half or a game. Just win the reps one at a time, each and every rep, and go from there. And good things happen. That's just how it works. That's how football works, man.
I think it's interesting too, guys. Like, Brien, we talked about this on the post game podcast, but Clement mentioned it again on Monday. The sideline warning. I mean, you can't fake celebrating with your teammates when it's the entire team. You know what? Sure, a guy gets a sack and he does the military crawl and celebrates or whatever. You can fake that, right? There can be some fake enthusiasm there. We see that in the NFL all the time. Guys are down by 3 touchdowns. They score a touchdown. They do a stupid touchdown dance. Like, you're still down 2 scores. Go to the sideline, whatever.
Trying to get on SportsCenter, man.
Right. But you cannot fake the entire team getting so excited for a guy that he got an interception that you get a sideline warning penalty, right? It's one thing to get an excessive celebration from the guy who did it, but to get a sideline warning penalty, you know what? I'm all for it. Right? You get one of those, so you get a warning every game. If you get a turnover, dude, you should just get so excited that you get a sideline warning. Maybe not every time, but you should be so excited that you are pushing the envelope, and you can't fake that. And so something changed in the bye week. And you know what? Football is such a team game and such a momentum game that you just have one positive thing that happens and you can start to get rolling. And obviously, it's going to be dependent upon matchups and X's and O's, like you said, Ian, but let's not underestimate the power of confidence, especially when you are a talented team, because this K-State team does have talented players. If they are as confident as they perceived to be heading into this game on Saturday, there's no reason why they can't win.
Big B and Ian, with your background playing, and Cole, you can chime in as well with your coaching background. And Cole played a year his freshman year in college, by the way. That gets really overlooked at GoPowercat. I will say so myself.
Shout out to myself.
Some college in Nebraska. I can't remember the name.
Doane University, baby. NAIA for life.
Absolute powerhouse. But it was easy for Kansas State to find that fire that it needed on Saturday. Sold out crowd, given the way the first month of the year had gone. It was easy to have that spark, and that's a spark you need game in and game out. But going out to Waco, where the crowd is not going to be behind you, it's going to be a little more difficult.
I mean, it will, but I liked playing on the road better than I like playing at home. I mean, that was just me. It's not that I hated the home crowd, but I love hearing the crowd yell against us. That was just me. But that goes back to when I was in high school. I just thought it was cool, and I thought it was a better deal to have and to shut people up, than it was to have people root for me. And again, that's not anything against a home crowd or anything. It's like, isn't it fun when you're in somebody else's stadium and it's dead silent? That to me, that was great, because they're dead silent because you are beating the brakes off of them. To me, I loved it. Now, I'm not saying Kansas State is going to go do that. It'd be nice, but I'm just saying I think that's where you can find your competitive juices, is saying, you know what? There's 60,000 people screaming against us. Isn't this fun? Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I agree completely. I loved that when they would talk trash. They'd call me a white trash or a dirty hillbilly because I had long hair, and I'd wave my Kansas waterfall at them. While I had it. I don't have it anymore, that's for sure. But yeah, I loved it. It got me fired up. It's fun. That's the fun part. That's that good rivalry that happens, and I agree. I think away games are a little bit more fun.
What's interesting about
I think they can find those juices, Gilbert. They should be able to. I shouldn't say they're going to, but they should be able to find it, these guys have played in enough football games to, if you can't get motivated to go win, again, understanding that everything that you want to accomplish in a football season is still out in front of you. Like everything that they want to do. And you name it, conference championship, college football playoff, national championship. Everything that you want is still within your power. It doesn't get better than that. So knowing that, yeah, they should be ready to play.
Waco,
See, you got me ready to go, brother. You get me all fired up. I got to go to bed here in like an hour. You get me all fired up.
you guys can back me up on this. When I went to Waco for that, would have been 2022, I think was the last time K-State played. The year they won the Big 12, they went down and played in Waco. It was a night game. Baylor was pretty good at the time. The year before, I believe they were in the Big 12 championship game. So, this wasn't a bad Baylor team. It was a pretty big game, actually. And it was just not a very good atmosphere, like at all. And I know Baylor fans are, you go to their basketball games and they're not always there all the time, but that's a really big alumni. They have a really big following, and I'm sure they have some really good crowds when they play.
They're in their summer home. That's why.
Yeah. When they play their,
I did not like playing at Baylor. Baylor was like the worst place to go play. There was nobody there.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, the atmosphere.
Waco. It's not their fault. They built it in Waco.
The atmosphere is so much different than playing anywhere else.
It'll be different though this time though, Cole. I can tell you that it'll be different. There'll be a lot of people there because they're good. When we played them in 2022, they weren't, and K-State went and whipped them. They're good, and they expect to be good, and they still have a lot. But they're kind of that fan. It's like when things are good, they'll show up. When things are bad, you might get 25,000 people there. So now they're good. It'll be a wild atmosphere there. It will be. But again,
that was my question.
It's Waco, so
man, it's Waco. Yeah.
When a coach gets fired, Big B, I want to ask you about this. With Baylor, I wouldn't say squeaking by Oklahoma State, but it got iffy for a little bit for the Bears. Did that temporary ignition for Oklahoma State maybe just have them outkick their coverage a little bit and play a little bit better than they are? Or do you think Baylor really proved that, yeah, they can be beat despite the preseason hype around that program?
It's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think there was absolutely some Oklahoma State outkick their coverage in that football game. If you just look at Oklahoma State, they are not talented. They're not a good football team. They just don't have enough quality Big 12 caliber football players on their football team. So, yeah, they played a little above their skis, I would say. Having said that, Baylor can be had. Like we've talked about. Look, they're very good at the skill position. Their secondary, not very good. Their offensive line, average. So and they don't stop the run. And I know we'll get into it later in the week, but that's where K-State can really take advantage. If K-State can control the clock and run the football, because they'll be able to run it. I mean, they give up 180 yards a game. So it's not like they don't give up rushing yards. They do. So there'll be an opportunity for K-State to take advantage. They just have to do it.
Yeah. And if we get a little ahead and we force them to pass a little bit and eliminate the run opportunity, or they're less likely to use the run, then, I'd love to see a pass rush come to life. Solves a lot of things for a defense. You can't be asking your secondary to do everything all the time, especially with a quarterback like this. So if these edge guys are as good as they're, if the talent pool is there like it's supposed to be, now's the time. Build on that confidence, right? Show up. Because he's right. You all have said it in one way or the other about the confidence thing. Like if you're coming off the ball thinking like, you see a window and you're pausing because you're like, oh, I don't know if I should go make the play, right? Because you're just a little nervous. You're afraid to mess up.
Yep.
Versus just go. That's how you're going to get that tackle for a loss. You're going to get that sack, whatever it is. The tackle showing you something, there's a tendency, or if you figure it out, you're going to start timing those snaps. That's when you can really start flying off the edge. But, I don't know where those young guys are. I hope their confidence is building off of this, though. That's what we got to hope.
Yep.
Ian, we like to give our guest the last word on these insider shows. And your full thoughts will be on GoPowercat. I do want to plug that Wildcat Legends Roundup. Ian and a plethora of other guys are going to be on there. But what are you looking for in this game? I know we've kind of talked about that the last hour, but what needs to keep going from that UCF win from Saturday?
Well, everything has to keep going. Momentum is huge. Cole brought that up. You have to carry that forward. I know you're supposed to have a short memory and focus on the next snap, but I agree completely with B on that one. It's about winning those individual battles, and they all show up as a whole. But you got to carry forward that momentum and that confidence and that swagger, even if you guys are just pretending for another week or two.
Yep.
And then it's got to be real, right? Fake it till you make it. That's not made up. Pretty much everybody that's an adult's been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
So, carry it forward. To me, it's all here and here right now. It's not the X's and O's coaches to take care of. So they got to go win the battle.
2 is a pattern. K-State played pretty good against UCF. You could do it in Waco. I'll be bought in. I know we did a piece on GoPowercat of whether or not K-State would make a bowl game. All of us said no. If you go out and win against Baylor, I think a lot of our answers would probably change. So,
Yep.
Ian, we appreciate you hopping on as always, man. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Insiders, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Thank you for watching the K-State Insiders. This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production.